Dun 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 dun. We should have had some intro music, but we didn't. Hello, my name is.
Get that for the next time.
I know. My name is Rikki Acosta. This is our very first episode of Cloud Unfiltered. It's a new podcast where we talk all things cloud, open source, technology, trends, pretty much anything that is interesting. And so I have a very special co-host with me today.
Hi, I'm Ballard. I'm a software engineer here at Cisco. Happy to be with you, Niki. Pleased to be here with our guest.
Yes, and we have an awesome guest. I'm really excited not only to have a woman as our first guest, but to have a woman of great prominence. Rikki Endsley, introduce yourself.
Hello, thanks for inviting me. I'm Rikki. I work at Opensource.com. I'm a community manager and an editor.
And I found you on Twitter when you were posting the open source yearbook that you just put together was going around, and I was like, ooh, that sounds cool. And so I checked it out and I was like, wow, this is really cool. Who did this? And then I saw your name and reached out, and here we are. So thanks for agreeing to meet a stranger in the alley.
Thanks for reading my tweets.
Yay! We'll get your Twitter info at the end too. Should we have like a word of the day? Maybe. Okay, you guys take your headphones off real quick, and then when I put my hands back up, you can put them back on. We're gonna play a game.
Okay.
The word of the day is open. Every time you hear the word open, I don't know, drink or something. All right. Bringing our guest back on.
I should have been looking away. I could see I could read your lips.
Oh,
I did not read your lips, so
I need to figure out a better way to do this. So let's get.
Well, you could have told me to look away, but then I wouldn't have seen your hands go back up. So
that's true. I totally botched that, and the viewers or the listeners are going to be like, "What are they talking about?" I don't even know. We just had a secret word, and the secret word, I don't know. Maybe you can drink or listen for it and let us know at the end how many times we use the secret word, and maybe we'll do a raffle or something for people who get it right, because we're going to do the transcript, so we'll know. So anyway, y'all don't know what the secret word is. Maybe Val might, but
I don't.
Okay, good. So Rikki, you have a pretty cool gig as an editor at opensource.com and putting this yearbook together and doing all kinds of other really cool community stuff. But take us back. How did you actually get into tech to begin with?
I do have a cool gig. I'm very excited about my gig. But yes, I got in it by accident. I wanted to get into editing, and I had gotten an English degree from the University of Texas in Austin, and as a waitress. And yeah, I'm first generation college, and so I didn't really know what I was doing, and so I didn't do internships or any of that. You know, I just was trying to get through college while waiting tables. And anyway, after school, I got an entry-level job working in customer service at a tech publishing company in Lawrence, Kansas. My family's from the Kansas City area. And I thought, you know, that would be a way to break into editing. And then I would, go work at a rock and roll magazine or something.
So were you writing tech articles? Or were you writing
doing
technical documentation as that first job?
No, I worked in customer service. I answered phone calls, and I led a customer service team, and we handled subscriptions for a bunch of tech publications like Sysadmin Magazine and CC++ Users Journal, Windows Developers Journal. And this is around 1997, the very beginning of 97. They finally advertised for a position at Sysadmin Magazine as an entry-level editor position, and I applied for it. I'd been at the company about a year and a half. And I actually took a pay cut to go become a copy editor. And within a year or so, I was an associate editor and then became managing editor. And I reported to Amber Ankerholtz, who was editor-in-chief. And she works on Linux.com now. And so I still get to work with her, and we're still good friends. But anyway, that's how I got in, was working at Sysadmin. And back then it was a Unix magazine, and it was the early days of Linux, and Linux started taking off, and I ended up really liking what I was doing. And, you know, I didn't get a computer for the first time until I graduated from college. And so I really learned at that company everything, knew nothing about technology, no tech background, but I just fell in love with the people I worked with. You know, sysadmins are awesome. I can't speak highly enough about sysadmins. I always say that they're like editors, that nobody knows what you do. If everything goes well, nobody knows that you're working, you know, and it's when something goes wrong that they're aware that you were doing stuff, you know, because you didn't catch a mistake or whatever. Yeah, so I was there almost 10 years and at that company working on sysadmin, and, you know, that was through the bubble burst and all that. And so I ended up working on the Perl Journal, and UnixReview.com rolled into our publication. And I still get to work with a lot of the people I worked with back then. And yeah, I left there and went to Linux New Media. They're based out of Germany, and they were opening an office in Lawrence, Kansas. I wanted help opening it and running the office. And a former editor from sysadmin was over there, Joe Cassad. He's still there. And so I went and I worked with him, and we opened the North American office, and they've got, I don't know, 8 to 10 employees there now, and a bunch of magazines. They've got Linux Pro and Admin Magazine and Drupal Watchdog and Raspberry Pi Geek. And I still get to work with some of those folks occasionally too. I just saw one of them last weekend at Scale. So that was the crash course in how I got started. And then I, you know, did some freelance tech journalism after that, and ended up at Red Hat. 3 years ago, I got hired at Red Hat.
It's so funny. My trajectory was not that different than yours. I got a communication degree from UT Austin. Hook 'em horns. Yeah. I was wondering when you got on the phone, I'm like, she doesn't really have an accent.
Yeah.
Be from like somewhere central in the country.
Yep, Midwest. Yep.
But yeah, I'm like, what am I going to do with a communications degree? Like, I had classes on everything from like HR to like neurology and nonverbal communication, just like random, totally random classes.
Yeah.
And ended up selling homes, and then made the jump to work at Rackspace in sales, and was there at the right place at the right time as far as like OpenStack was concerned. It was just being born, and it was super exciting and lots of fun.
Yes.
Now, I don't know where you got your start. What's your deal, Pickle?
Yeah, I was kind of similar to Rikki in terms of not touching computers until later, but you know, did some time in third world countries and came back to the United States and saw that my mom was doing this email stuff, and I was just, what? She's ahead of me in computers, and that really scared me. So I really got into it after that, and I went to college for a computer science major. Didn't even really know what I was doing, and came out of the fire. It was really fun. So that was at University of California, Berkeley, but so just been coding ever since. But I'm really interested, Rikki, on the whole publishing space for these tech journals, because I remember I used to get a few of them, and I'd read them and stuff. And mostly what I do now is online and stuff. I mean, what's happening to that market now? Like, are people, is it still pretty healthy in terms of subscribers? It seems like it's very fragmented as well. Like you talked about the Raspberry Pi and things like that. Like, is that still going? It's super interesting. I'm just curious to know your take on the market right now.
Well, it's awful. It hasn't been healthy for a long time. People don't get into journalism or publishing for the money. It really is a passion if you're into it, you know, because it's not good money and it's really hard work. It's a lot of work. And but it's also really cool people who are hard workers and creative and passionate, you know, and so that's why I got into it. And so there's not a huge profit margin in print publishing or in publishing. You know, now publishing has changed so much. I was fortunate that sysadmin, we always had very high standards, you know, for our content, and it was always a paid magazine. We didn't go with the free model that all of our sister publications ended up going for, and we weren't 100% supported by ads, you know. And same thing when I moved over to Linux New Media. You know, they're charging $100 a year for Linux Pro magazine, you know, but then they also, that quality of content, you know, has to be very high because people are going to pay $100 a year for your magazine, you know, so you're writing for them and not for the advertisers. And that really appealed to me, you know. So, and then journalism, it's very heartbreaking to see what happens now online. You know, we're really, you know, politically, we're really seeing a lot of the fallout finally of what happens when the people don't control the source of news, right? Yeah. And when it's, if you're getting free content, well, it's not free, somebody's paying for it. And if you pay for it, you're the people that have to be pleased, right? And so that's why it makes more sense for you to be paying for content than to have it be 100%, advertiser supported.
Well, I hadn't even thought of that.
My first journalism course, back when I thought I wanted to be a journalist, which is funny because I'm kind of sort of doing that now. But the first class I sat in on was like Journalism 101. And I remember walking in and they had like the transparencies, like the old school ones that you have to write on and it projects the stuff on the wall. And he said, if you remember anything about this class, this is what you need to remember. And it said, if it bleeds, it leads. Like that was the whole thing. And it's like, man, that hasn't really changed. I think about it all the time, but it's just like, hey, if it's news where that's heavy, like it's going to lead. Like the more dramatic the news is, the further it will be ahead in placement. I met a bunch of journalism people and decided that wasn't my cup of tea. But mostly because I think I would have failed the current events quiz, honestly. They were like, wanted you to read Wall Street Journal every day. And I was like, man, I just got out of high school. Like, what?
Yeah, well, and the pay-per-click model is, there's a lot of ways to get clicks, and that's not necessarily by writing good content. You know, if you make people mad, you're going to get a lot of clicks. So if you say things that are controversial or inaccurate, you get a lot of clicks and you make more money. And so that's, kind of a problem, which I think that regular humans are finally starting to appreciate based on, the last 6 to 12 months. Popular news cycles. So
how do you guys get good content? I mean, describe some of the people who are contributing the articles to a lot of the publications that you're involved with, or that you have been involved with.
Well, back when I worked on Linux New Media publications, it was generally people who worked in tech, some professional journalists, but we didn't have a giant author budget. We had an author budget, so it'd be a little bit of extra money for a sysadmin who wanted to write about something they were working on. Where I am now, there is no author budget because the site's 100% supported by Red Hat, and so we're not selling ads or profiting on the site. It's a community site. And that intrigued me because, as a freelance journalist, I was opposed to working for free. And particularly, if a site was for profit, I didn't have a problem writing for free to some nonprofit, sites, and particularly in open source, if they were interesting sites and I liked the audience. But, Huffington Post, for example, I had an article picked up on there one time when I was a journalist, but I got paid by a different site for it, but Huffington Post didn't pay me, and so that as a journalist, you want to get paid, you have to get paid or you don't eat, But for opensource.com, as a community site, that model really appealed to me before I moved over here. And I had written on the site before, but I liked what Red Hat was doing with it. And we're able to give a platform for people who don't have this kind of platform. So if you already are writing for your blog, and let's say you're a programmer and you're writing about some cool thing you're doing, or let's say you do marketing for a tech company and you want people to know about this cool project you just released, then that's where opensource.com is a really good fit because we have a nice broad audience, more than 1 million page views a month. And so people can, hit a nice range of readers, and it's not supported by ads, and so you're not dealing with a bunch of pop-up ads and all that either. You're in good company with a bunch of other good content, and then we do have the team of editors who are vetting it to make sure it's a good fit and that it has been cleaned up and polished, and so it's a good read.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I know before the show started, we were talking about kind of your role, being a Red Hat employee, but, really your heart belongs to open source and your time and energy goes to that. And you kind of have to walk a line, right? Mm-hmm. Like you have to balance, the fact that you are a Cisco employee or a Red Hat employee, yet you still want to do what's right for the open source community, which may not always be something that's in the best interest of Red Hat, at least, product wise or feature wise or whatever. But I think in the long term, if you're a good source of content and information, it's a good look for Red Hat, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And because we're not a Red Hat marketing site, we're not covering Red Hat enterprise product, and that's also not the kind of content we're going to cover from other open source companies. We're really looking at projects and communities and more of the communal stories than enterprise product that a company is trying to sell, because we want articles about technologies and communities, but not an ad, a white paper. We're not trying to run that kind of content.
But Red Hat does that pretty well.
Yeah, that's on Red Hat sites. Yeah, and on Red Hat branded sites, where it's very clear that you go to that site to learn about the products. And so, that's not what we're for.
So let's talk about the open source yearbook.
Obviously, talk about it.
It looks like you put a ton of effort into that. Oh, you've got a hard copy with you.
Yes,
Brilliant.
yes. And
so, tell us about it. Tell us about the whole journey of putting that together.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you asked, because I'm a print. Oh, go ahead.
Maybe tell about people who maybe not have heard of it before. Okay. Just what it is. And
yes. So I'm a print person by heart. I've worked on print my whole career, print magazines, and I really love print. And before I joined opensource.com, I actually talked to the team and told them I had this idea for a yearbook, because last month I just celebrated 20 years in my profession, and I was thinking about, man, I really wish that I could go thumb back through these, this history of open source.
Oh yeah, what the current technologies
are,
and people are talking about.
Yeah, you can Google and look at all that stuff, but there's no easy way like a yearbook, and so I just had this vision. And so last year, luckily I have a manager that's supportive, and he's not a print person, he doesn't really have buy-in for print, but he thought, I was so excited about it and whatever, he was like, all right, go for it and let's try it out. So we launched it last year. We started publishing the articles at the end of the previous year, so we published them at the end of 2014, no, at the end of 2015. And this is where it gets confusing, all the years. Anyway, at the end of the year, we started publishing it. Then I put it together in the 2015 yearbook. And so we launched that at the beginning of 2016.
So the 2015 was the first yearbook?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And so the articles were free on the site as individual articles, and they were, just a little snapshot of what technology looked like that year. And so then we did it again this year. We started publishing them at the end of 2016. And so in January, we were able to put it together and as a download. And so the articles are also all on the site, and you can download the free PDF. And then we sell the print ones through lulu.com, but it's whatever they charge you for printing and shipping. There's no profit off of it for us. It's purely if people want the print copy. But so it'll be nice, I think, once we have this archive build up too over the years, that people can look back and see how much technology changes year over year. And in this latest edition, we had a few articles that were took kind of a historical look, since we don't have those old archives that I wish we had. Jeremy Garcia, the founder of linuxquestions.org, wrote an article about the history of that site. And then Seth Kinlon, who's a Red Hatter now, and he used to be just a writer on our site, among many other things he does, and a community moderator. He wrote an article, Compute Like It's 1989, and looked at some of the technologies from 1989. And then he also tested a bunch of the old Linuxes and, played with them for the first time and wrote about that experience and how they were different. So.
He's got 32 disks, floppy disks on his desk.
Yeah, something like that. So, so that's nice that we can kind of get those older articles in. And then last weekend at Scale, I talked to the Linux chicks were there, and I think they have been around for 16 years now. And
wow.
So I talked to them. Yeah, I talked to them and asked them if they would contribute an article, because I thought that would be nice to look back at the history of the Linux chicks in our next one.
How fun! What a neat job. Are you finding? I don't know. I got into tech not that long ago, and I feel like just in the time that I've been in tech, which hasn't yet been a full decade, things have changed so fast.
Yeah,
it changes. So just year over year, it changes a lot.
It's a different story every year. It's like a different job.
Has it always been that way? Is the rate of change accelerating? I kind of feel like it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's definitely accelerating, because we had typewriters for quite a while.
So also, I wanted to ask you another question about the content of the yearbook. So I was thumbing through it, and I saw there was also some legal things in there, and some career guidance things in there. I mean, tell me about some of the other content in there that was makes it interesting. I mean, it looks really cool.
Yeah, getting a snapshot of the big legal stories, I think is interesting, and so we did a roundup of those. We did an article that looked at some of the diversity and outreach efforts that are going on, because I think that since that has been an issue forever.
Forever, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going away anytime soon. I still think it will be interesting to look back at what we have been working on, and different communities and different organizations, what they're doing and what seems to be working. Because when we look back at that stuff in 5 or 10 years, we can be like, yeah, nothing's changed, or we can be like, wow, that really was bad back then, and things are perfect now, or however it is in 10 years. Yeah, and then we had we looked at the top news stories. One that was a fun one was one of our moderators wrote 7 cool little open source projects that stood out. And so she hunted for just some cool little open source projects that people should, keep an eye out on. And then
I was happy to see that in one of those top ones that Vim was still there. That made me happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's funny because Perl, for example, not really new, right? But every time we cover Perl on the site, it's hugely popular.
Really?
So yeah,
wow. I was a big time Perl developer.
Yeah, Perl. Yeah, it's not going away anytime soon. In fact, it's kind of trending again, I would say.
What?
Yeah.
I might be so relevant more in other ways.
Yes, you're super relevant. Well, people are collecting vinyl and cassette tapes again. So
yeah, that's true.
You see my record player? I got it right there. Right?
Yep.
I went to my mom's house and totally ransacked all the vinyl in her house. And she's like, did I tell you you could have that? I was like, yeah, like 2 years ago. And you don't have a record player, so I'm going to take it. And it's like, Carole King and the Carpenters and
good stuff.
Lionel Richie, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I got all my dad's records, including, I had no idea that Gordon Lightfoot had so many albums until I got them from my dad. So if you need any Gordon Lightfoot,
Analog is coming back in.
Yeah.
I love it. So tell us about the career path stuff too, because I think, I definitely see, because of the rate of change, that businesses are struggling and individuals are struggling to keep up and be relevant and make sure they're at the top of their game. It's like, you're super busy, you're working all day, maybe at some point you have a family or something and you have even less time to commit to just learning. Like, what advice do you give folks that want to kind of do a skills refresh?
That's a great question. And I'm glad you asked me, because I think about these things a lot. And there have been 2 things that have helped me most in my career. One is network. Always be thinking about your network. And that should be fun. I mean, I think it's fun. It's meeting people. It's getting to know people. And so it's, and that can be online. You don't have to travel to be able to meet people. Or it could be volunteering at local tech events or going to meetups or whatever. But I don't think I've ever gotten hired on a job based on my excellent interview skills or my great resume writing, because those aren't actually strong areas for me. It's more about, hearing about the jobs, and maybe even people will tailor a position to suit you when they find out you've got these skill sets, but the position they have should actually be tweaked because you can actually fill maybe 3 positions they'd like to fill that aren't quite full time or something, So that's it. And then picking up new skills all the time, I think, is really important. And that's helped me a lot. And people say, that they don't have time to do it when they're home, or that I have heard people say, that for parents or moms or single parents, that it's exceptionally hard to go do that. And I totally agree, but it's also totally doable. And it's, if you want to keep a job, you have to do it. If you want to stay, fresh and hireable, you have to be picking up those skills. I was a single mom, and so I do totally get it, but I also couldn't afford to not have a job. And so for me, it was more of a panic thing, as I would go home at night and teach myself how to install content management systems and build websites, so I could do that for some freelance money on the side, or barter, and that sort of thing. And then I also went back to school when I really felt like that my skills had put me in a tight niche. I went back to grad school while I was working full time and I had a kid. I don't only do that if you're really if you really are desperate or really panicked, because that's really hard and stressful. You could pick up skills without having to.
It's so admirable, though. I mean, that's so difficult to.
It was, yeah. I think about it sometimes,
that.
and I walked back to my car and crying more than once leaving class. But I'm glad I did it. But you don't have to do that. You can pick up free skills. I don't think any of those free online classes were really a thing back when I started doing that either. So
yeah, but it's just a time commitment.
Right.
You're telling me about learning these skills. So my dad passed away when I was younger, and I inherited a big leather bag full of leather making tools. And I was like, man, I should use those. And I went to go see my uncle, my dad's brother, back in my hometown, the West Texas town of El Paso. And he was showing me all these things he had made with leather. And I was like, man, I forgot that you were also into this. And I was like, I think I have my dad's tools somewhere. He's like, you should use them. And I was like, you know what? I should use them. And so I started looking online. And it's so funny because a lot of the videos are like these dudes who are in their 80s, like, Pat is one of the guys that I like to watch. But you can learn how to do anything online now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you want to tile your floors, you want to install a light fixture, you want to fix your washing machine. Like, there's probably a YouTube video that shows you how to do it, and that's awesome.
Right.
Well, it just shows too that the barriers to tech, they're so low. It's just, but there's a time commitment there. I mean, the content's there for you now, but it's just very difficult to sift through that in terms of, managing time for it. I just, anybody new going into that, it's difficult.
I like the interaction. I learn from interaction. So the whole thing of self-studying, I just fall asleep. I
agree. That's why class worked for me, and I had to do actual school to make myself do it. And I have found that having a deadline, a time commitment, really helps me. Like right now, I want to read, learn Python the hard way, and so I told myself I would do it by the end of this month. And now I'm on the record. I've been telling people publicly that I'm going to do it by the end of this month, because then I don't. Yeah, I'll do it. I might be up all night the night before the end of the month, but that's what I'll do.
So the two things that you said in an answer to Nikki's question about, how do you stay relevant and stuff like that, was one that you're always learning, and the other one is that you're always networking. And I really liked when you said networking, because I'm probably more introverted in some ways, is that it doesn't have to be just in person. It can also be these online communities and things like that. So that actually gives hope to a lot of us more introverted people that, are comfortable just chatting on our computer and stuff. Anything else besides those two things you think are crucial to maintaining a good job in tech? I mean, I think you've nailed it right there, and I probably would have said something very similar, but I mean.
Well, I think those two are the most important, because even networking, I mean, you're learning when you're networking, you're learning from other people, and that's what you're tapping into, other people's strengths. And or even I went to a conference last month, the Opensource Leadership Summit, and there were topics there I just hadn't been thinking about, because we haven't been really covering them much on the site, because people haven't been sending us in the proposals, like the machine learning and artificial intelligence and that sort of supercomputing, big data was stuff that we really haven't been covering. And I used to cover supercomputing, but not machine learning. And so I started thinking about that more, just because people were talking about it. People who were interesting. And so then I got home, even at the airport, I was downloading podcasts and reading at the airport articles. And so I came home and wrote a couple articles about machine learning, because, just these people I met really sparked that interest in me. So, I really think that those are the two things. I mean, in networking alone, right there, you're going to pick up. Yeah, you're going to learn.
That's where my head explodes. To me, the internet is still the little cloud, I know that's the part that folks that have been at Cisco for a long time, that's their jam. They really, they really get that internet cloud bubble up to the side.
I feel it was made for me.
There's so many acronyms. That's what gets me with networking. I just get totally lost in acronyms. It's rough.
Yeah, tech doesn't do a good job. It's like every industry has to make their own barrier to entry by creating difficult words to keep those who don't know out to justify their jobs or something.
I've thought about that a lot, actually. I've totally thought about that.
Yeah.
So as far as cool stuff that you're excited about, technologies that you're excited about, I mean, you probably are exposed, said you went to that leadership conference, you're probably exposed to a whole lot of things. Other than machine learning, like what's the new hotness? What's
that's the one
thing?
that I'm really starting to look into is big data and what it's being used for right now, because I hadn't really I hadn't been thinking about it, and it's it's just there's so much going on. People are using it. You hear about it being used in marketing, and that's less interesting to me. I know that that's a way people are monetizing it or whatever, but I think that the big data in politics, I hadn't really been thinking about how that was being used, and that's horrifying.
It's horrifying.
I'd like to know a lot more about that, because
did you read that? Are you talking about the Cambridge Analytica articles?
Yeah, it's all.
Oh man.
Yeah. And what's even more terrifying is what we don't know that we don't know.
Yeah.
And so I want to know more. So that's a big one. And then also, I want to get a little old school on our site. We know that people are really into the sysadmin topics, and we don't get enough of those. And as I've said repeatedly, have a soft spot for sysadmins and systems administration, and it's never going away. And I would like to see more of what's going on with sysadmins right now, because they're too busy taking care of systems to actually update everybody on what they're into. And so
how do people actually start? Are you looking for more people to contribute content, or do you feel like you have I'm sure you have tons of people, but I mean, if somebody was like interested in starting to write something about the interesting work they're doing, like what would you have them do? Like how could they use opensource.com for that?
Well, we are interested in hearing what they want to write about and what they're interested in, or if they want to write and they want ideas, we're happy to help them brainstorm. And they can just email us at open@opensource.com, or we have a web form on the site. And yes, we are always looking for new contributors, because we try to keep at least 65% of the content contributed by members of open source communities outside of Red Hat, which means articles that the small team isn't writing, and we're lucky that a lot of Red Hatters are able to write for us about non-Red Hat related stuff, because Red Hatters are generally from other communities originally and still active in many other communities. But we really want to have non-employees writing for us too. So yeah, we're always looking for new writers. Game topics tend to be hard to get also. And then programming articles. Yeah, anything about game development and games on Linux. Those do very well too, and so we're looking for those. Yeah, and then programming. We're running our first programming series next month, and so right now that's what I'm trying to do, because we've been running more programming content since I've been on the team, because we ran those a lot on past publications I've been on, and so I knew they would do well with readers, and so now we're just making more of an effort to find more of those Perl stories or Python or command line stuff. People always want to hear about. So
scripts. Is it like tips and tricks, or is it like intro level stuff?
All of the above, because we have such a nice broad range of, we've got kernel developers, then we have people who are just learning about open source. So we have a nice range of content. So yeah, we definitely have a lot of sysadmins. In fact, I think probably the majority of our readers, if you did a poll, have some kind of sysadmin background.
What kind of roles are they, or what kind of skills are they looking to acquire? Sysadmins.
Well, they're always just looking to stay on top of their skills and pick up, stay on top of the latest trends and new technologies, whatever can make their jobs go better, make sure they don't get called.
Efficiency. Yeah. And cover your ass a little bit, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. Make sure your systems are secure and stable and up.
Yeah.
It'd definitely be interesting to see in articles on machine learning and system administration, right? I could see that being just fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I wrote those two last month at the very end of the month, and they both made the top 10 list, which was really shocking to me, because I was like, hey, I'm not the only one who's totally curious and into this. And so I'm excited to write some more on that topic.
Go ahead, Niki. Oh, I was just going to ask, the reactions to the open source yearbook, any good stories there? stories about getting content for the yearbook that stand out to you, or just some of the cool things that might be interesting that we should be asking you about?
Well, the response was just great. I was excited about the project, but then to see how excited readers were, we had more than 14 or 15,000 downloads last year, which our goal was like 1,000, and so yeah, it went better than expected. And then and because once we had that first one out, getting more content for the next year was a lot easier. And it was nice because I'm able to collaborate with other organizations who want to participate, because I want this to have many voices in it. And so we have an article from someone at Google talking about some of the open source projects that were released from Google last year. Josh Simmons wrote that. And then kernel development article that Linux Foundation got us from Greg KH. And we have an article from someone from O'Reilly, Rachel, who's the chair of OSCON, and she wrote about some of the programming languages that are popular right now. And
do y'all do any diversity topics as well?
Yes, yeah, we do. And in those, I'm always looking for not just talking about how we need more diversity. I really want like stuff that's working or stuff that people are trying.
Actionable.
Yeah, like what have you tried, or what have you found that helped you get more women speakers at your event? What worked, or how did you get more women in your programming class in your college, or how did you get more diversity in the applicants for the position that you opened? What were you doing wrong before? People want to know what you did wrong also, so that's good.
Every once in a while, I'll hear like a crazy NPR story on like the actual psychology behind, why people tend to hire people who are like them or look like them. And it's always super, like the whole cultural aspect is super fascinating. Going to Austin, it's such a melting pot, it's kind of like, you don't really, I don't know, just seems like everyone's kind of like you're equal. But you go to other places and you're like, wow, there's like cliques, like very well-established cliques.
Yeah, I think you radiate towards people kind of that you can relate to, that are like you, And I noticed this with event photographers a couple of times. I don't really like to have my photo taken anyway, but I have noticed even events where I've known that there were a lot of women there, then I see the pictures and there aren't many women in the pictures. But then I've seen photographers, and often they're young men, and I think they're also feeling awkward about approaching the women at the events. And so then you're not representing even the women that are there if you have a photographer who's a little shy about approaching people who aren't like him,
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I also realized my view is a little skewed because my name is Rikki, and so online I could be a dog or a man or whatever. They don't know, right? So so if I had a name that was more international or clearly a feminine name, my experience might even be more different than it is.
There was another NPR story about that, I kid you not, about how your child's name can determine their success.
Yep.
Like if it's an easy to remember, kind of shorter syllable name, those people tend to appear more in like VP and up or director and up type roles, which is just fascinating, I probably should have read all that stuff before I had a kid, but oh well. Yeah. It happens. So what do you do in your spare time when you're not like, doing the road warrior thing or, writing, or you said you're a mom, so you do the mom thing?
Well, no, she's grown and on her own. And so I'm not doing the mom thing anymore. So then I had to really decide what to do. And because I'm on the computer so much at work, I'm trying not to be on it at home so much, because after 20 years of it, it takes a physical toll on you. Yes. And it's, I have back and neck issues from it. So I actually try not to be on it when I'm at home, which is cut into the writing I want to do when I'm, for myself. But what I have been doing, because I'm a print person, is I got into snail mail again about 3 years ago. And so I have been writing lots and lots of postcards and letters. And so I've got pen pals from all over the world. A lot of them are people from tech. And I get letters back from people. And so that's
fun.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. It's peaceful. And, it's a thing I thought about after I moved, and I found a box full of letters and, dating back from high school, and and mixtapes also. But I had this stuff, and I was thinking, man, my child's not going to have this. She's not ever going to be able to go back and read love letters from her punk rock boyfriends in high school or whatever. And that's sad, because I like to read that stuff now, or letters, from my grandfather, and he's, gone now. And so I just started doing that. So that's the one thing I do in my spare time.
Are you doing like calligraphy too, and like making your own envelopes? With like-
I will write on envelopes and and draw pictures on the postcards and whatever sometimes too. But then I've made postcards using new cards. I've got Creative Commons art, and then images I've taken. And I've bought old postcards from antique malls, where I don't think they have any licensing on them anymore. And I've scanned those and get those reprinted.
Oh, cool.
And this week I got a box of 100 postcards that are women in science.
Ah.
So I'm sending those out. They're on Amazon.
So I'm going to send you a leather craft, and you're going to send me a postcard.
Yes.
Deal?
Love to
Sounds
do it.
super fun. What are you going to send us, Val? What can we send you?
Man, I don't do anything.
How about an article for open source?
There you go.
There you go.
Well, He's very good at that.
I did notice that there was in your magazine here, it talked about how closure is on the decline. And I'm like, man, I just started learning that and enjoying doing closure script. And so now I'm seeing it's on the decline. So I don't know, maybe I'll send a closure script thing to try to reverse the trend.
There you go. Bring it back. Bring it back. I'm bringing postcards back. So
yeah.
My kids think it's like the coolest thing to get mail too, and I'm just like, I don't even check. I check my mail like maybe once a week, unless I know there's like an Amazon package in there. That's the only time I go to my mailbox. But when my kids get mail, they think it's like the coolest thing ever.
It is the coolest thing ever.
It is cool.
And I have literally boxes of letters that my grandmother and I wrote while I was in college, and it's like a freaking time capsule. In addition to sending me like coupons to like, Sonic or, name your favorite burger joint or whatever, she sent me like stickers and stamps and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And lately at the OpenStack summits, I've been doing money exchanges with people. So all my foreign friends, I'll bring a bunch of US dollar bills and coins, and I'll trade them for people from other countries, and then bring those back to my kids, and they think that's really cool too.
Yeah, that is cool. Because print, long live print.
Yes, so fun.
Wednesday, International Women's Day, what I did at home was I scanned all of my grandmother's old recipes that were on little note cards. And the first ingredient on one of them was saccharin tablets.
Oh, wow.
Like corn syrup and sugar and brown sugar were the first 3 ingredients on one of the recipes, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to make these, but I might make them into postcards.
Yes. Ketchup meatloaf.
Right,
that was
exactly.
a popular one.
Yeah, you don't see corn syrup in too many recipes nowadays.
No.
Now it's like, you may substitute coconut sugar or palm sugar or something.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, or monk fruit or whatever the newest trend is.
Yep.
Oh, that is something
I should know these things.
I did turn my wife's family's cookbook into a website, so I did do that. So
that's
cool.
awesome. You're like you're the acceptable in-law.
Okay.
At that point, right? Like you passed.
Oh, I'm going for I'm going for favorite.
Yeah, I was gonna say that makes you favorite. Yep.
Yeah. No, I think I got that down. I'm
winning that one. You're winning that one.
Yeah.
I have an identical twin, so it's like, there's some fierce competition over here.
Yeah.
You know what she's doing?
You
know what she's doing right now? She's at South by Southwest. She owns a teleprompter business, and she's actually I think is it today or tomorrow? She's got like this crazy lineup of guests, but I think Sunday she's running a teleprompter for Joe Biden, and I'm like, that's really cool.
Oh, I love him.
She gets to dress. She got to run a mic through Matthew McConaughey's shirt. Super awesome. Her job doesn't suck.
No, that sounds cool.
And smooth operator, super clever. I couldn't have thought of a better one myself. That's a good name for a teleprompting business.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, way to go. Proud of you. We're getting ridiculous here. Where can we find you, Rikki? Like, give us all the places, and we can also post them in the comment section on the YouTube video.
All right. Well, you can find me on opensource.com, obviously, and then on Twitter, I'm Rikki Ends, because I wanted a short handle.
RIKKI
ENDS.
ENDS.
Yes, and then I'm on G+, and I'm on, yeah, those are the main ones. I'm on LinkedIn too, but I have to know you to accept you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I don't even check my LinkedIn that often.
Yeah, and
every time I log in, it looks
too,
totally different, and I'm like, what happened?
Yeah,
you notice that?
Pardon?
Do you notice that when you log into LinkedIn now, it's like totally different?
Yeah, it is. I can't keep up. So, yeah, I occasionally go check in and see what people are doing on there. But
is Twitter your jam?
Yeah, Twitter. You know, I'm all about being concise, and I like that 140 character limit.
Do you get bored easy, Rikki?
Bored?
Yeah. Do you get bored easily?
No, I wouldn't say I get bored easily, but you know, there's a lot of information out there online, and so if I'm hunting for it, I want to be able to find it quickly and easily, and so I like the restrictions with Twitter. It makes people get to the point.
Yeah, I love that.
That's why I'm not a fan of this new trend of the threaded tweets where they'll tweet 20 things in a row and number them and all. And
I hate that.
Man, you should have written a blog.
Right? You know? It's all ... and you're like, scroll. Where's the rest of it?
I can't do it.
Scroll. No.
No.
Good times. I guess that's the beauty of Twitter, though, is the fact that it's concise. I've been trying to post more like visual things on Twitter too, which I like. You know, I have Instagram and it's all tied to all my accounts, and I don't post like family stuff on Twitter. Twitter's kind of like more work stuff, but then. I got this really freaking cute cockapoo puppy, and he's so handsome. He's so adorable. And so I've been, you know, putting him on Instagram and going, okay, I could put that one on Twitter. Yeah. Posting dog photos or whatever. But
there's them.
It's good to have like follow people who have a human element to them. When someone's just like a marketing megaphone and that's all they write about, it gets a little dry.
Yeah, no, we need more animal pictures on Twitter, definitely. I posted a picture of my cat on Wednesday, and she's pinned because she was all over my computer while I was trying to work. And so I was like, all right, fine. I'm trying to recruit authors. I'll just stick you in a photo. And
I was just looking at that.
Then she made it to the homepage of opensource.com yesterday. So, yeah.
To the homepage. No kidding.
Yeah.
The cat is famous.
She's going to earn her cat food, man.
Yeah, get it. Val, where can we find you online?
Just at Vallard. That's my name, at Vallard. So
V as in victory, A-L-L-A-R-D. Yes. Yeah. And we will stalk you. You've written a ton of stuff online too, which is always awesome.
Got to start writing more though.
You know what? You probably have delivered my favorite like DevOps 101 course of all time.
Oh, thanks. You're too nice.
For sure. It's really good. It's really great for people who didn't come from that world. You make it really, really easy.
Is that available online too?
Probably in many different formats, I would assume. If not, maybe he could polish up a new one for you. Just saying. Oh, wait, you're my co-host. I'm not supposed to be pimping you out online. Sorry. Shameless plug for Vallard. Well, I think that's it. I can be found at Niki Acosta, Nikiacosta on Twitter. This was a really fun episode, and I'm so glad you were a guest, Rikki. It was
fun. Thank you.
It was a good chat, and I know you've got somewhere you got to be. So drive safe, and that's it for Cloud Unfiltered episode 1. Everybody say bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Great to meet you. See you, Rikki.
See you.